Second.
Hey, what that?
Y'all been doing well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just going from practice to practice.
Oh, I know, I'm busy. I just came from lacrosse practice and worry. So, and then
Softball and soccer.
oh, both, yeah.
You get a double. Technically swim, but it always got.
Oh, I just time right now. Yes, yeah.
Colorado things. Coaching.
Oh, easy.
Softball. Oh, yeah.
Are we all good to go? Good. Yeah, I think, well, almost, we got a minute, about 7, I can go ahead and go on starter then, I'll do that. All right, let's call the regular meeting for the Pleasant Hill Rec and Park Board on April 23rd open, and why don't we just take a quick minute to do a roll call. It looks like all directors are present, so would you want to join me with the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now is an opportunity where we can open up for public comment, and it's an opportunity for the public to talk about anything that's in our purview, but maybe not on tonight's agenda. So, Michelle, did we have any
No.
public comment?
We have no public comment.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and close the public comment then and move on to the reports and presentations. So Michelle, you want to take it away?
Yeah, great. So I have a written report. I wanted to highlight a couple of things in the General Manager report. The first is that the Pleasant Hill Community Foundation is having their annual Celebrate Our Community event on Thursday, May 7th. We were granted a total of just over $14,000 in the Community Foundation for various grants, and we appreciate their support as always. There's a list of them in your report. Also, our Oliver Holmes Award this year is going to go to Ainsley Pierce. She's an administrative assistant in our HR payroll department who has stepped in and learned payroll and done all of the payroll related things. And so she's been a great asset. And also getting people onboarded and making sure they have all of their paperwork done. I appreciate Ainsley, and so we're giving that award to her this year. On Friday, May 1st is the Age Well Senior Expo annual event. Hopefully, some of you might be able to make it. It's a all-day event. Nicole, goes 10.
No, it's I believe 10 to 1.
10 to 1. Okay, goes 10 to 1. And then last on my highlights is that I will be out of the office next week. I'm Monday through Friday. I'll return on Monday the 4th. I will be going to Hawaii for the week, so I'm very excited. Sweet.
Good, any questions, comments? Okay,
I have a couple.
oh, go ahead, yeah.
With respect to the Oliver Holmes Award, that would have been one that I would have loved to have had on our agenda so that the board could have participated in, kind of applauding her. So I don't know if that's something that is typically done or not, but it would have been an opportunity for us.
It hasn't been, and the previous ones I've announced this way, and then we've done that at the Create Your Community event, but we can in the future. I have not done that, but that is an excellent
So that
suggestion.
is the one that is done at the community
at that,
foundation
yes.
event.
Yeah,
Good.
at the foundation
Okay.
event, yeah.
Good. Yeah, there's just an opportunity for us because we don't get that many
Yeah, no,
opportunities to do it.
for sure, but that's in the future, we'll definitely do that as well.
With respect to the grants themselves, I'd like to encourage staff to make different sorts of presentations during grant applications. One that is for kitchenware. It didn't strike me as one that really is, I mean, that should be coming out of our budget. If not, I know that there's money that the senior club has on deposit with the Community Foundation and the East Bay Community Foundation. So those sorts of applications, when in the bigger picture, it just seems like there could be things that we could be approaching the Community Foundation for that would be a little more substantive, I suppose, less sort of, let's replace the silverware kind of thing. And I had kind of the same reaction to the technology upgrade, that's probably something that should come out of our budget rather than ask those that have donated to the community foundation to, to use. So that was just some observations that I had that I think staff could maybe expand its thoughts about things that.
Yeah, I think staff is kind of individually decided to do that. We haven't looked at it as a whole. The community foundation just kind of sent it out to all the staff and they've all individually applied for things. And so we haven't looked at it holistically, which maybe we should in the future. In addition, kind of the things that they've chosen are the amounts that the community foundation traditionally has wanted to fund. So that was one of the reasons. We did submit a larger application that was not accepted for a larger project. But there is another grant cycle in the fall, so we'll probably look at that as well. Yeah, and I don't disagree with you. We'll definitely look at that a little more holistically. But I think there's kind of some thought there from staff as to kind of why they've done that. But
yeah, especially with respect to the senior club, where they do have a fund already to,
and they
pop for some of these things, if in fact we can't find it in our budget, which to me seems like it should be the first place that staff should cut. But anyway, those are my observations. Thank you.
Yeah, good points. I mean, it's nice if the staff collaborate on kind of coming up with a grant application that could benefit, multiple groups and organizations, maybe a larger amount.
Well, I think the supports for the events are awesome.
Oh, absolutely. Those are,
awesome.
it benefits the community immensely. Wonderful. Any other comments, questions? Okay, we're going to close that then and move on to the consent calendar. So we're just going to enact this in one motion, unless someone wants to pull something. But I'll entertain a motion on the consent calendar at this time.
I'll move approval of the consent calendar.
Say, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that passes. Let's go on to tonight's action items. Action item number 6.1. I won't read the entirety of it, but it's essentially
Yeah.
to for the general manager to enter into a professional services agreement with Badawi and Associates to perform our audit reviews going forward. So Michelle, you want to go ahead and
Lisa, want to join me up here in case there's some things I can't answer. So as the board's aware, we have used Mays and Associates for the last 3 years for our audit. And we had issues with timing in them being not done in a timely fashion. So we are at the end of our initial 3-year agreement with Mays. And so we have decided not to move forward with any of the additional 1-year options that we had. And so we put out an RFP. We sent the RFP to 13 different firms, plus posted it on our website. We received 5 very qualified, some more qualified than others. Lisa and I reviewed those and ranked them based on technical ability, their staff, those that have rec and park experience, as well as those that have government experience, and then balance that with the cost proposal, to make sure that we got good quality for a good price. And so what rose to the top was I'm not going to pronounce this, Badawi. Badawi and Associates. And so they have risen to the top. We are recommending that the board authorize the general manager to enter into 3-year contract with that firm with option of 2 additional 1 years. Should we receive excellent service, then that is our recommendation. We do have a representative of the firm here to answer any questions. Mitesh? Yes, Mitesh is here to answer any questions that the board may have, and also to introduce his firm. One of the pluses with this particular firm is that our finance manager has had personal experience working with the firm. She's had personal experience with two of the firms that applied, which I think showed well in that they wanted to work with her again. So that was excellent. They didn't run. So I'm pleased to do that, to make that recommendation. If you have any questions, Lisa and I are here to answer them.
Okay, open up for questions.
What is the difference between this contract for 3 years and the prior contract for 3 years in terms of dollars?
And dollars, it's about $3,000 annually.
More.
More, yes.
Okay, so that's sort of the
Yeah.
inflationary.
Yes,
thing.
yeah.
Okay, got it. The one thing that I've seen the comparison chart here of all the applicants and things. Did you take a look at the product? Because as you know, Michelle, we have struggled in the past with a product and presentations that have not been easy for us to understand. So in looking at this particular company and making this recommendation, have you looked at the product that they provide?
I did, and I spoke
What'd you think?
specifically, so they actually have a client, the Hayward Area Recreation and Park District is a client. So I looked at their audit. I also called their general manager, and he has been very pleased with their service, and they've been doing their audit since 2017. And they're a little more complex than us. They have some more federal grants and do a little more than we do, because they're a little larger than we are. But they were happy with them, and so whenever I see a colleague on a reference list, then I usually make a phone call. So.
Did you ask them specifically about the annual presentation to the
Yeah.
board of the audit?
Yes.
And how that went?
And General Manager Wheeler said that it's gone well. Their board has understood it, and it's been impactful for them. So.
Then my last question has to do with the nature of a 3-year contract. Can we, if we are displeased after the first year, are we obligated for the entire 3-year process? We
are not. We use our professional services contract, which gives us a 30-day out at any time. So one of the things that is difficult, and one of the reasons why we're fast tracking this is, because we didn't get our audit done until March, basically, we were 3 months behind in trying to find another new auditor. So many of the auditors are asking, because we still want to make sure it's going to be done. One of our requirements was that you were going to be able to get it done in November. So basically, if we weren't happy in November, December, then we'd have that option and have more time to find a new auditor. But that's standard in our professional services contracts.
Well, I know a representative is here this evening.
Yes.
And
You want to join us? Lisa can shoot you over.
I hope you're hearing that our experiences in the past several years have been, we've had some issues. So looking forward to a new day.
Sure. Look forward.
But those are some of the issues that we have had.
Nice.
Did you want to say anything about your firm or?
Sure. Just to let you know that we're a firm that primarily does governmental audits. We have been in business since 2012 as the official Badawi Associates. However, the partner, the owner has been in business, has experience since 1999. So, and I've been working with them since 2008, and I joined him from our previous firms. We initially went through a number of acquisitions and mergers, and we split from our previous firm back in 2012. Essentially, we found that with a larger firm, there's a lot of bureaucracy and financial relations and customer service isn't the primary objective. So essentially, we learned a lot with the large firm experience. So with that, we took a lot of the experience, technology, and tools, but also we have a lot of partner involvement in the audit, and we always are responsive. As far as timeliness of the audit, we always do our best as far as we can. However, depending on
Parts of it's on us too.
Yes.
right. So as long
We won't have that problem. Lisa's on.
right. So, but we do try to communicate when things may be falling behind, either because we didn't receive the documents, we have weekly meetings and other kind of controls in place to ensure that no one is surprised as far as why is the audit not done yet. And so as far as anything that's been delayed, I mean, I have one audit I've been working on, it's till 2023 that they're working on,
Mhm.
but they've gone through a lot of challenges and turnover, but that's the exception. Usually most of our audits are issued on time, and any ones that are delayed are usually due to, challenges on the client.
I understand there's some sort of board education requirement now for.
There
financials and
is,
things?
and so
Is
yeah,
that something that this firm provides?
no, not this, working on a financial training that is now required for state law. You will all receive that in October, is kind of where we're at right now. So it's another hour-long training about your financial responsibilities, but yes, that's coming down the pipe, so.
And does this contract include that state report?
Yes,
That happens?
yeah, it includes everything that you need, right? So
Yes, ma'am, the contract includes the major statutory requirements such as, of course, financial transaction report with the state controller's office, agreed upon procedures as to the state law GANN appropriations limit, of course, financial audit, as well as annual comprehensive financial report compilation services as to the actual statements, no disclosures that require supplementary information. And
Did we not have that before? Did we not have that before? This
We did.
compilation?
we had it, yeah, and so all of these things were in the contract, but we did not receive all pieces of that last year from our previous firm.
Which would have
Yeah,
helped our budget committee.
yes, it would have helped us,
Everyone.
yeah, so Lisa had to submit and make sure that was done, so we did not get the penalty for not submitting that in a timely fashion is severe as far as cost wise, so. But that's right. But yes, those are all included, and I'm sure that this firm will make sure that we get it done.
So the client, there is a client training seminar,
Yes,
and that's an all-day session.
correct.
What time of year is that typically?
Generally, we have it in when we have our break between our interim phase, so usually it's in the July-August
Okay.
timeframe. So we have it essentially in person, and then also we're trying to simultaneously do a hybrid remote. So we do it in person, and then also people can join remotely as well.
You have a question?
Other questions? Any comments, I guess, at this time? Go ahead.
I want to thank Lisa and Michelle for, we had a timing issue since we didn't get our audit until March, so we really needed to get that RFP out, and I commend both of them for working on that and getting it out and getting a decent pool of applicants to apply, and being able to review everything and we're here with a new company that we're looking forward to working with. But thank both of you also for getting that done.
Other comments? I have one. I mean, I had gone through and I appreciate getting the evaluations that you had performed, because it was very comprehensive to look through the firms that had submitted, and I think you had done your due diligence in terms of looking at the types of qualifications that were required. But I also looked at the qualifications of the firm and had noticed that a lot of the districts that are similar to us, as well as a history of, I don't know if they're also on a 3-year sort of contract basis or not, but it seems like you've had the same clientele over and over for a long-standing period of time. So I thought that was also a testament to a good working relationship with the clients that you serve. So that to me seemed like it stood out as one of the things that I would be looking for, is people that want to continue to work with your firms. So with that, any other comments, questions? I guess I can close that and we can put it up towards a vote in terms of a motion and a second. Oh, yeah, so I'll just entertain any motion on this particular
Do you wanna
action.
do public comment?
Oh, us.
There is no public comment.
I skipped over that. Maybe because I assumed this might not be
Yeah,
on this.
there is no public comment.
Okay.
Close public comment.
Okay. Sorry about that. I don't mean to discount the commentary from our public, but shall we go ahead and entertain a motion?
I'll move the item.
I was wondering now that. I'll second the item as well.
All in favor? Aye. Right, well, we're really looking forward to it. Thank you so much. Yes.
Right, you and Lisa can get started, we'll let the contract out, you can start, please.
Wondering if you're gonna read that all day.
Oh, this is pretty lengthy.
It's kind of like sitting back where.
It's experience it shows right there.
Yeah, right.
The item.
Okay, let's move on to item 6.2, the discussion around the direction to staff regarding the 237 Gregory Lane. It's APN 150, 141 and 006. It's staff report with this and Michelle, yeah.
Yeah, so just for some background, I provided it in the report, but the properties that are north of our property at 237 Gregory Lane, which currently serves as a parking lot with 8 spaces, were sold in 2025. So they were formerly owned by the Smith family. They are now owned by somebody else. They were sold. The current owner is looking to redevelop those parcels. And in doing that, they needed an easement over our property for some additional utilities. So they came to me and asked for an easement. I took that request to the Land and Facilities Committee. We looked at options at that time, knowing full well, we had a conversation about if we kept it, we granted the easement and they put it back to a parking lot and it was a parking lot and they were putting the number of homes that they were planning on putting behind that lot, it would virtually become a lot for the development. And so
Sorry, why would that be?
well, I mean, it wouldn't, it would be difficult for us to monitor that. So, keep people out of that. It's already difficult enough for us to monitor it and make sure that neighborhood cars aren't there and abandoned. And so it would be potentially very difficult for us to keep residents that are living in those homes behind there that out of that parking lot. Maybe it wouldn't be, but it would be very difficult. And
I'm sorry.
Later, you can ask a question. And so at that time, OSA had looked at the Surplus Lands Act and whether or not we could potentially surplus this land or dispose of this land without going through the Surplus Lands Act. It's basically what the option is. It does fall under the small lot exemption. A small lot exemption would be any parcel that's under a quarter acre. And so at that time, the Land and Facilities Committee recommended that we consider disposing of it instead of granting an easement over that property. So I'm here tonight to ask if the board would like to do that. If you would like to move forward with disposing of this particular property. If we do that, then at your next meeting, OSA would develop findings for us to dispose of that. We would then go to HCD, request their permission, make sure that they agree with our small lot exemption. And then we would enter into negotiations with the property owner to the north of us. They would like to purchase the property. And so we could enter into negotiations with them If we couldn't reach price, then we don't need to get rid of it. But it was be an opportunity for us to get rid of a piece of property that isn't necessarily the most usable in the property that we have. So with that, I'll take any questions. Both Director Glover or Secretary Glover and Director Tran were on the Land Facilities Committee. So I think, did the chair of that committee want to say anything?
I think you summarized it pretty well. It did come to us as sort of an easement, and we did have a discussion, given the location and the size and really the challenge that would occur with the number. It's going to be, was it moderate to high density housing? It's going to go in the back there. So looking into sort of the option of this place, and I think was the proper way to approach it, and then bring it into the board for further discussion. So that's sort of where we landed at. It's here today.
I think the only thing I would add is I believe that lot, I think we discussed, that lot was a requirement when we built the senior center that we add that parking right there, which was that random, but now with the new zoning.
Now with the new zoning, it is no longer requirements.
Oh, interesting.
No,
It would have to be rezoned back to housing, because right now it's rec and park.
Yep, they would deal with all that.
Get a administrators.
A requirement due to, having enough parking spaces for the senior center, was that why it was kind of?
it was just a calculation of the number of parking stalls that would need to
That
be
were
provided,
provided for.
so it needed to use that parcel to do that. And as Director Tran mentioned, it's 5 lots, but I think one of the applications they have in is for 18 units, and so anticipating 18 units down that way and how that would be parked, it's just kind of a natural. I mean, even if there were probably 5 units there, it would probably be used as overflow parking, and probably very likely that there's going to be a significant amount of parking there that would be used. So it just becomes, more of a, how do we
Manage the space for.
maybe put a fence,
Well, we can't lock it up, there's an easement
You gotta
across
make sure
that.
you-
Well, you gotta get
Yeah.
through the part, but I mean,
Yeah, so yeah, I end up putting.
which then becomes the lot to nowhere, so, anyways. I don't think, one of the things we're talking about tonight is going through the surplus land act. I don't think that precludes us from keeping it, at some point too, like it just, that sets the stage for the, I think would be a proper negotiation between landowner to the north who has expressed interest in purchasing it.
Yeah, my understanding too was that one of those requirements was that it was not contiguous with, a parcel, and so there's a canal that separates this parking lot from our other properties. So I think that was also one of the considerations for why it might qualify for an exemption.
Yeah, that's the other part, is that it's not contiguous. And the Harupa Area Recreation Park District HCD approval that I included is very similar to this to our parcel. It's actually even they were actually building, they have empty lots, and their land was contiguous to a future park, and HCD said that it was okay for them to dispose of it. So ours kind of fits that.
But it is contiguous with the flood control district.
Yeah, but we're pretty sure that it's
Okay,
yeah,
that needs
but
to be-
it's used for open space or lower moderate housing, so not,
Right.
yeah, so. Yeah, but it's not, that is not, the flood control district is not open space like that wasn't open space, so.
I didn't read that as the requirement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's what number 2, it says not contiguous land owned by a state or local agency that is used for open space or lower moderate income housing purposes. That came directly from COSA. But it's not a slam dunk. I mean, we can apply to HCD and they could, very well say, oh, that is open space, and then no, but but it's not gonna cost us anything to go through the process.
Request a review of that. Other questions? I mean, there's no control then if it is disposed of what the developer would do with that property. It's then, gonna be something that they would determine the best use for it. Or I guess, the city would then, have the purview of how it ends up ultimately being developed. It may not remain a parking lot, although that's already, the improvements that they're there, but it could be somehow in how they construct their design, something else. If it is developed, then does that development then include provisions for, I'm sorry, but I don't always understand the designation of some, public use spaces for the district as part of
They would most likely pay the park dedication
the
fee.
park dedication. That would be also part of that.
And that would be true on the five,
On any-
on the
on the five that are in
parcels
the
that they
back
have right
anyway.
now.
Other questions? General comments?
You wanna move into discussion?
Yeah, we can move into discussion.
Take
Yeah,
public comment?
yeah, why don't, yeah.
There is no public comment.
No public comment? Okay, let's move into discussion then about this. Want to kick it off? Yeah.
I just happened when we went to Tinkers and Thinkers the other day, we happened to park right on Gregory Lane, but right up to that, and I looked and I thought, I never know about those parking spaces, and I'm pretty sure it was full.
Mm.
But we happened to get
Spot.
right there on the street. So when I saw the item, I thought, oh, okay, and this makes sense. But I think certainly this is something that it's reasonable for us to request the exemption and go from there, once we have a response on that, which based on seeing the sample that you provided and what OSA provided, it looks like it would be approved, and it took him, I think it's a 30-day request.
Yeah.
So we would know within 30 days.
Well, I park there frequently. It's sort of my little secret spot.
Me too, Sandy, me too.
It would take 8 parking spaces away from our patrons. And I'm just not convinced that, our fear that we'd have to manage something, terrible warrants taking 8 parking spaces away from the public for our events and programs. We've always had neighbors there, and we from time to time have issues with people parking there when they shouldn't, but we've managed it. The lots in the back are gonna be required by the city to have enough parking to accommodate that. So I guess that doesn't mean that we should necessarily anticipate we're gonna have chaos in those little 8 spaces, but we've managed it before. We just say no parking after dusk or whatever, whatever it needs to be. Someone parks there too long, we put a little note on there. Tom, you're usually the one that usually goes around probably and does that, and the cars go away. Anyway, I don't see a need to take 8 spaces away from public parking.
Yeah, I go past that on a regular basis, as I run that direction, and I only regularly see like one Toyota pickup truck that parks there. It may be the neighbor that uses it for their personal parking space alongside that, because it's closest to their house. That person might be most impacted, but I sort of feel as though it seems as though the majority of the time it might be underutilized. It would be for special events, when we have Tinkers and Thinkers and, the senior expos and things where we need to have that additional parking, but I don't know that even people understand that it's even public parking. It's not even designated, as such. It's just parking that's there. I don't know that people realize that it's available for use, but yeah, maybe it is a little, secret, place where you can find a spot if everything's full. But I think about the benefit, yeah, it does take away from the parking spaces that we provide. But in terms of being able to accommodate, some of the development that's very much needed within Pleasant Hill, and maybe that's a way in which that developer can accommodate some of the needs of the housing that's one of the things that is needing to be increased within Pleasantville. So in some ways, I feel like there's maybe not a huge loss in terms of 8 parking places, but a gain for, you know, what we can do in terms of the broader community and what's needed. And I have to, you know, be honest that it wouldn't hurt to have some, you know, financial benefit from being able to have that, you know, considering where we are currently with the budget and how this could help kind of bring in a little bit extra revenue that might help in this time. So, you know, it's maybe not a huge amount that we can, you know, look towards. I don't know what that would be in terms of a negotiation and a price value for this lot, you know, with some of the amenities that are there, but I think that the developer could potentially make a little bit better use of that space for their development. So those are my thoughts.
It might help them financially, get another unit in there or something.
Mhm.
I don't know that it's our job to help in that regard. Sorry,
Yeah.
Bobby.
Oh, no, I was actually, I was gonna say the same thing. I don't think we need to.
Not necessarily
Yeah,
worry.
with how the builder makes the
Yeah.
project work. I think, you know, more, you know, cause I agree. I mean, there's gonna be a parking requirement that they're gonna have to
Regardless.
fulfill. I think we all have seen development occur in the neighborhoods and just realistically understanding what 18, cut it in half, call it 9 units, what 9 units, you know, would do to that. And just the fact that, I mean, and quite frankly, I forgot about that parking lot. I didn't even know it was there. Like, I mean, I know it's there. I know why it's there. But
Everybody knows
I
that.
I mean, I could tell you how many times I pulled out of the senior center and gone and parked, you know, like somewhere else. I not even looked at that, you know, but. So, you know, I was kind of looking at an opportunity, I think, with mine, but yeah, I would echo Sandy's. I don't think we need to worry about. You know,
The developer working. it out.
Yeah. I think it's more like in my. It's a nice offer for something that. I quite frankly, in my opinion, is just gonna continue to, it's gonna be a challenge, I'll call it that, once something goes in there. But that's my own opinion. I can also see it the other way too, but.
Yeah, we had the same discussion. I sort of articulated that in general, I'm against getting rid of any park space, green space. Just because once it goes, it never comes back to green space. But this is one of those, you know, asphalt areas that I was trying really hard to figure out a way to protect in some way. And I think Bobby and I went back, I kept bringing it up.
I did.
You know, I even thought, you know, if we don't sell it or whatever, can we not make it a parking lot? Could it be a pocket park of some sort instead? You know, they're gonna have to tear out some of this asphalt to get their, you know, easement through for your utilities. And so if things are gonna be torn out, you know, they have to put it back together. But why put it back together? Just make it a pocket park or whatever. To be honest, you know, as a former civil engineer, I could probably find 8 spots in our current senior center. That is a horrible layout as it is. And just looking at that, we probably could have been more efficient just with the number of spots that are there. And so in my mind, losing those 8 spots is not a huge thing. And technically sort of thinking about it, planning for these many spots, I think that's sort of a really old way of thinking about transportation. I think there's a lot more options now. Current generation has the lowest rates of driver's licenses ever. You know, people are using a lot more different transportation options. It's just that Earth Day, and the city itself is pushing alternative modes of transportation. They had a whole entire booth on there in terms of what can we do differently, how do we think differently, get away from the car culture. And so I don't know, losing 8 spots to me, for this particular area, I think I eventually came around to being okay with that, even though I'm generally against sort of losing park space, because this is really not functional space for us in general. And even though we're not sort of thinking about what the developer's going to do, what the city's going to do, we want to be good neighbors as well too. And there is a big push on sort of housing and our ownership of that land literally landlocks the entire space behind it, right? And so everything they need to do, easements, whatever it is, they're always gonna have to come back to us in some way. Which I think is just silly in the end. And so
I'm sorry, can you explain that part again?
well, I mean, the reason they came to us is because they needed the easement.
Right, so we give them an easement, why
Yeah.
would they come back?
Well, I don't know,
And there's a need to do some other.
Some other
improvements or, yeah.
some more sewer work, more utility work, whatever down the line,
That's fine.
yeah. And more tearing up, you know, so it's just sort of one of those things that if we're just gonna keep doing that. You know, it probably is just much easier for them just to control that lot. Let them figure out how they want to do their utilities. Where they keep it as a lot, make it into another unit, whatever it may be, you know, that's fine. I mean, it wasn't really functional, like you said, it's really underutilized for the most part, except for those rare big events or something, but. So I did finally come around to that. Okay, let's at least take a look at it. At the very least, you know, we can go through the process, get the exemption, negotiate it, and come back with a number. That makes sense for us.
It's
That's
just
reasonable.
to do that.
Oh,
What's it gonna cost us?
submit an application or.
Just the appraisal
Oh,
cost,
right.
just the appraisal cost.
Oh, okay.
So.
Well, we have OSIS cost, we
we
have
have
this application. have appraisal.
Yeah, we have OSIS costs. OSIS costs shouldn't be that much, cause we're basically Harupa did a whole bunch of the work. So they're using that. She's using one of her
As a
junior
basis.
associates to do this work. So it's not a ton of work, for her. So we have that and then an appraisal. Like those are the costs at this point.
Well, but he's gonna have to do some engineering. We need a survey.
I don't know.
No, I'm gonna cut off, I don't need a survey. I just need an appraisal for what the property is worth. Based on the title, and there are a number of easements on it, so that's gonna definitely affect the cost, but we do have a good comps of what they purchased the other properties for, so.
Well, we have there's a motivated buyer here on the opposite side of that, so.
And we don't need to sell.
And we don't need to sell it, there's no
Yeah.
pressure to sell it. You know, the worst comes to worst, we just deal with what it is, right? It is what it is, and so we keep it as a parking lot, we deal with it and we figure out some of the things to do with it, we deal with it. But it is an opportunity at least.
Yeah.
I think that's where I've sort of landed too. It's like, it doesn't hurt to maybe investigate, you know, if that's a possibility. And it's just, you know, we don't even know yet if that's an option, if, you know, HDD, rejects it or not. We have to at least, you know, say, well, is this even something that would be considered? We have a basis for why, you know, it was done previously, so there's a precedent and maybe that will, you know, weigh into their decision, but. Yeah, we wouldn't even know unless we kind of go through the process, and then we can kind of, you know, come back and determine, is this really what we would want to go forward with, so.
Well, I suspect I'm fighting upstream, but my position would be that we just focus on the easement and not invest money at this time to look into the potential for something. I don't see a reason to do that.
Are you concerned that the investment is like exceeding what we might, you know, get in terms of?
I just don't think we should invest it in this.
In the exploratory of the.
Yeah. Not based on the facts as I have them. It just came to us as an easement, so why not?
Well, they
I would stop there.
Yeah, so I just wanna clarify, they originally came to me and wanted to buy it. I talked to OSA said we'd have to go with the Surplus Lands Act. They didn't wanna do that. And then they came, I said, "Look, an easement would, you know, be the, you know, if that's what you need, would be the easiest way to get through that." In between that time, OSA came back to me and said, well, there's a small lot exemption. I looked, this project would fit, so we could do that. So that was they originally wanted to buy it. OSA and I had a discussion. She said that we'd have to go to the Surplus Lands Act. That is a much larger process. They didn't want to do that. And so that's why we kind of ended up where we're at. So.
It came to the committee as a.
As an easement, yes, because that was, at the time, that was what we had told them was the only thing that we could do.
So essentially, OSA is taking an assignment and advising us about how we could do it if we wanted to.
Correct.
But she's not saying that we should or
No.
could, she's saying
You could,
this would be a way that we could find out
Yes.
if we could.
yes, yeah, and we
So
could
start out that way.
Yeah, and I could, and what we could do is, and we just need to find that out as we get the appraisal. And, kind of see, what it is they're gonna offer and what the appraisal is and if we're anywhere close. And, because then once I have that, then you can all go into closed session and have the conversation about what it is that you would like to, what value you want from that property, and we can choose to sell it or not.
I would stop at the easement.
Other thoughts?
Are you?
We're just recommending it
Well,
in course of action.
it sounds like I have a consensus.
Yeah.
For you to move forward with the appraisal.
Yeah, I mean,
And-
I would approve moving forward with
Yeah.
going the surplus of land.
Yep.
To the grant authority to contract with an appraiser.
Okay.
That's where I would be. To see what,
Yeah, I feel like, in this particular situation, it's another step that we can take towards at least, knowing what our options might be, to be able to look at the exemption and see if, we end up getting the qualification to have it under the small lot exemption. It will come back and we'll talk about it further, but it will be another, piece of information that we can use for making that decision. So,
Here,
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
let me,
Yeah.
one thing, could we do it in steps where
Yep.
we submit to HCD
Mhm.
and it's wait, so hold off on the appraiser until we hear back from HCD, or do we need to
I
have the
can.
appraisal as far as?
I can, we can wait, but it would be nice to have a number.
Ready
From
to
an
go.
appraiser.
Well, I'm just trying to think, I mean, is the number
Yeah.
negligible to get it appraised, or is it?
From what I understand, I have 3 appraisers that I'm gonna get cost quotes from. I'm told it's, so. It's been a long time since I've asked an appraiser to do something, so. I'm not sure exactly, but I have 3 appraisers that I'm gonna get, huh?
Trying to remember what it was on the, I think that's the last time we did an appraisal. But,
Yeah, I don't remember, so.
okay, yeah,
That might be a
Sort of stepwise progression.
step way to go in.
yeah. It's the,
You know.
see if HCD, I mean, it's 30 days.
Yeah,
Just
30 days,
let
yeah.
that- See what they say, if they don't, if they say
Then
no,
we
then.
don't have to carry it any further than
We don't have to
that.
go any further.
Yeah, I mean, if it's negligible, it's $500, then, for an
Yeah, if
appraiser.
it's $5,000 to do the appraisal, then I think we might wanna say, developer, if we're going to be even considering this, we need some financial input from you.
Mhm.
Well, and, and I can
I'm
get
not
quotes,
saying it would be that much, but.
I can get quotes and then I hear you and I can make that determination, like, I don't wanna spend, I'm only spend $500, I don't wanna spend $5,000, right? I've already kind of done the comp as to what they paid in per square foot, so I know kind of where we're at.
Yeah.
So, or where we should be at. So,
Was this a similar process to the joint house that was part of the rec and park at one point, or?
no, we sold the house next door.
Yeah.
We sold
How's
that,
that sold?
they went through
We sold that.
Yeah.
house,
Yeah.
The
the surplus lands, yeah. Yeah.
So
It was.
So there wasn't
Everyone
an
had it,
exemption.
it wasn't, exemption, but it's sort of the same conversation, why would we sell that versus keeping it?
Because
We sort of used to have
So why we
emergency, pretend there's an earthquake kind of thing.
Yeah.
You'd drag bodies in and out. I mean, the place was wrecked.
Yeah. And we built the senior center.
Mhm.
No, I sort of think you're saying you're trying to keep as much land. Why would that sort of we out that one? Was there a reason
I
or?
mean, if I recall at that time, and I may be wrong, but I mean, we also had some significant expenses related to the FF&E for all the facilities, and that was something that we ended up, we raised a bunch of money through donations from the community, but we were still short. We ended up having to take a loan out to ensure that we had all the stuff ready to go into the buildings, and so as part of that, if I recall.
About 300 grand or
Yeah.
50 or something.
It essentially helped us pay off what we invested, you know, the loan that we took out to help. Yeah, it was that additional gap funding that we needed to ensure that the community center and the senior center, the teen center all had the furniture, pictures and stuff to go in.
There's a family happily living there now.
Yeah.
It's been
And that's the house that was right at,
right
next to
next
the,
to the.
right next to the existing. Oh,
They use that lot a lot.
yeah.
We clean up after that family all the time.
Let's do something about that.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right,
well,
well, it sounds like we.
I hear the
at
concerns
least
and we'll go through the stepped process.
First look in the application
Yeah,
and then we
we got
can, yeah.
And so the next step would be, this would come back to the whole.
Yep.
Like in.
Yeah, with findings and,
Okay.
and Osa would be here and stuff, so, or maybe not, or maybe no, so, yeah, it'll come back. And then, yeah, when we talk about price, I may actually have a closed session with you prior, so we can kind of have a conversation about what it is you're looking for. And because Osa said we can go into closed session and talk, deal points, so.
Yeah, I don't know how you do comps on something like that. Yes, I'll have to look into.
There are people who
how
know
to
how to
phrase,
do it.
yeah. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and move past item 6.2 and open up 6.3, which is the authorization of implementation of the GASB's statement 87, which covers kind of the reporting of the leases and the threshold that we'll establish.
So, so GASB, which is the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, there it is. You want to come sit up here with me, please? So most years, a lot of years, they come out with new findings and things that we have to report in our financial audits. And so the first one we have that is this year that is being enacted is GASB 87. And it is basically reporting of all leases. We have the opportunity in this particular from GASB 87 to set a threshold for leases that we would have to report. One of the reasons this is important for us is because we lease our building with every rental. So the actual amount of if we didn't put in a threshold for the reporting purposes in our audit, then it would be very labor intensive for us in our audit in trying to report all of those things. So Lisa looked at what other agencies were doing with GASB 87, and she is recommending a threshold of $100,000 to be identified in our financial audit and financial statements. So any lease would be any contract value. So like, let's say we were leasing all of our fleet, right? So if we went to a leased fleet, or leasing all of our computers, or we were leasing a building from somebody, or if we all of a sudden said, okay, someone's going to lease the senior center from us, right? And that would most likely be something that might be over $100,000. So those are the types of things that would be then reported. It's a reasonable amount, and so that is our recommendation. And Lisa's here to answer any more of the technical financial issues. I'm trying to make it as clear as possible for those of us lay people. And why it might be problematic if we do not. Did you have anything to add?
That summarizes it pretty well. Ultimately, in the United States, the financial reporting information is subject to generally accepted accounting principles, which are established by the Financial Accounting Standard Board, which is further interpreted by GASB, Governmental Accounting Standard Boards applicable to the governments. So what we disclose in terms of the financial information on our financial reports must comply with the new GASB pronouncements. Currently, there is over 100 of them, 105 to be exact. But every time a new GASB standards gets issued, in order to implement it, the government must evaluate first, in terms of the implementation, if the process of implementing the new GASB statement meets the cost-benefit constraint required by the general accepted accounting principles. Regarding the GASB 87 for leases, that statement became effective in fiscal year 22. When at that point, the governments are required to evaluate for the cost-benefit constraint. If we implementing the statement, is the cost of implementing it will exceed the information benefit it will provide. If the answer is yes, then implementing the statement will become a control weakness and should not be implemented. Specifically for evaluation, when implementing the statement as it applies to the district, the answer is the cost of implementing it will exceed the benefit it will provide because, for example, if you go ahead and implement the GASB 87, ultimately what it will do, the leases will be reported, the leases will be reported on a statement of net position and will have to become either a part of long-term debt or a fixed asset that will need to be furthermore depreciated, amortized, and all those relevant accounting procedures. If we, based on a history of payments specifically related what can be interpreted as a lease, if you go ahead and implement the statement, the dollar value will be largely immaterial to report, amortize or depreciate on a statement of net position, because, for example, if you go ahead and report a lease liability on a statement of net position, the district's liability currently for the long term, we have outstanding bonds issuances, certificate of participation, pension liability. This lease reporting will be largely material to report and track. For example, just in terms of the payments for leases in fiscal year 26, as of today, we only pay less than $5,000 of leasing the equipment, right? It's largely immaterial. Or, for example, the rentals of our facilities to the public, if we compare it to the actual assets, fixed assets, we have about 38 million. Do we truly want to spend all the resources to recognize a lease asset, which most likely will be way below 100,000 threshold? So, to summarize, every time GASB issues a new statement, an agency government is required to evaluate if implementation of the statement would meet the cost-benefit analysis required by the United States General Accounting Principles. If a cost of reporting this information will exceed the benefit it provides, then implementing the statements will become a control weakness and should not be implemented. Specifically to our district, it is recommended to establish the threshold
at 100,000.
the threshold 100,000 that will exclude majority of the leases to be reportable.
Yeah, that was my question a little bit, how that threshold is established, in terms of, is it, by, district, do we have our opportunity to kind of set that?
We do, but Lisa looked at what other local agencies are using, and this is how we're come to this.
And it is at a point where it's unlikely that we would ever, reach that threshold unless we have some sort of like contract operator and.
Right, or we, Lisa gym somewhere, there are some
Yeah.
things, but we do some complicated things, and my biggest concern is about. As Lisa mentioned, the rentals, and so those are considered leases, and so we want to make sure that we're above that, so.
Right, and it's also in relation to the long-term liability or long-term fixed assets that's currently reported on a statement of net position.
Which is interesting because,
Yeah.
any lease that we would get into, the board would approve, right, for us to get into that contract, and so it's kind of interesting that they're now putting them also on the financial reporting, so, but that's where we're at. Some of these things, they make sense, don't make sense.
So this has been around since 22. We haven't done it. Why do we care? Why do we care?
Well, to answer that question, for example, the prior auditors did not care. They specifically specified that they're not going to evaluate GASB 87 reporting at the district because it's immaterial. But that was Mays.
We don't have that, we're not that big.
Yeah.
But that was Mays, for instance, God forbid. But if Badawi says, and Badawi is subject matter expert when it comes to GASB 87, when they say, how did you address this statement? What evaluation did you perform to make sure that there is no such leases? Because yes, they're small, immaterial, ultimately we don't care, but to have that evaluation is on us, because that question is required to be asked by the audit program for all government aid entities. So
they ask it, and
So
we
but
say,
now we have. Which we.
Well, we're buttoning this up, that
Yeah.
basically the board is agreeing, or is adopting the, is authorizing us to implement the standard that it would be immaterial unless it's under $100,000. Which is basically us not doing anything, but having something.
But documented.
It's documentation.
But it's
protecting
documentation.
the district, because ultimately I'm also thinking into the future, right?
Right.
What if some events take place? And one of the things needs to be said, for GASB 87 leases, it doesn't have to be a contract. A lease can be implied.
can we adopt it then?
So it's also thinking into the future. For instance, an event take place that would imply that the district entered into a lease arrangement, but already protected. We have an exclusion as to the amount.
Yeah, it's really, everything we have is immaterial. Adopting this isn't going to change anything, but it's going to make it clear that our financial staff evaluated it, and this is our implementation of it. So.
Other questions?
I wouldn't know what to ask.
Yeah.
Does this improve our Moody's at all?
Yes, I don't know if it improves it.
Interest of the district, you have that protection.
Point one.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
I don't know, you asked for questions.
It's best for us. There is no.
No public comment, okay, that was gonna be the next question, but any other discussion? I sort of feel, as you had stated, this is an opportunity for us to be able to indicate our position in how we address GASB 87, and we've set a threshold based on what we've seen as kind of established with some of the other agencies, and it doesn't look in any way that we'd exceed that, even potentially in the future, so it's just a protection, if you will. So if we get asked, like, how do you address this? Well, we have a lot of, short-term leases, if you will, but we don't then have to have the cost burden of reporting all that as being a burden to
We won't have a cost burden of evaluating them, because ultimately the short-term leases are excluded from GASB 87 definition, but they still require to be evaluated
to be evaluated.
unless we have that threshold in place.
I think a wedding is a short-term lease, right?
It doesn't change anything
Yeah.
to adopt it.
On something like this, are we looking then
I'm looking for
for
a motion.
a motion? Okay. I'll entertain a motion on this agenda item then.
I'll move that we authorize the implementation of Governmental Accounting Standards Board Statement Number 87 leases, GASB 87 lease reporting materiality threshold.
And I will second your motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good.
Okay.
Our next one is very similar.
Very similar.
In-
So
in-
it's still moving?
It's
Has to do with
very
AT.
similar. It has to do with subscription-based information technology arrangements. And that reporting materiality threshold, we are recommending at $250,000. And so we don't have anything that reaches that threshold. And so that is what we're recommending. I will state that in addition to this, on the financial side, there is SB 272, which is software enterprise systems, which annually we need to update and post on our website all the different enterprise systems we're using, basically all the software we're using. So it's kind of like they hit us there, and then they also, now this is the financial side, and so it's very similar. So we're recommending the larger threshold of 250,000. So that is where we're at.
And I'll open up for questions. I have one. I mean, I'd ask, like, are there current like IT licenses that we have that, you kind of get us?
Yeah, our highest one is.
So,
Like we currently have subscriptions. 3 of those 10 are very much questionable whether they even qualify as a subscription. And one of those 10 is the City of Pleasant Hill, which is a government agency, so they will be excluded. But there is ultimately 10 reasonably stated subscriptions. The total spending from July 1st, 2025 till now is 170,000 on all of them. The largest one in terms of the expenditure is 44,000 as of today for Civic Plus, our Civic Rec software. So because of the larger volume, the larger threshold will be appropriate to exclude it.
and was that kind of also then compared against sort of,
That
peer agencies and?
Against other agencies that did the cost benefit analysis at the time the GASB 96 became effective, which was fiscal year 23 was effective, as well as to the amount compared what we currently reporting in total fixed assets on the statement of net position, because it will not be, as a long-term liability on the statement of net position. We are not leasing our software to anyone, so we will not be recording the receivables.
This is again another one of those things we just want to get done.
Yeah.
And it also, some of these things that we might have not done before, and not looked at them specifically and asked the board to authorize the implementation of these. We have not before gone for the GFOA award in accounting
Oh,
and budget presentation, which those of you who might have seen the city presentation, they get on an annual basis. And Lisa is trying to get us in line with all of those standards so that we can then present our act for next year to receive that award in excellence in government report and government financial reporting. So some of these may seem a little redundant but there is a purpose in getting us in line with all those standards.
You mentioned there were 105 GASB standards. Are we gonna see 103 more?
Well, currently,
Those extra pluses on there.
We're swinging for the fences here. I'm sorry, that was facetious, but
yeah,
why just these two and why not all 103 others?
so GASB statements are in a way evolution of policies in the United States from 1970s. So every time a GASB statement comes out, governments implement it, they find additional events or information that they feel should be disclosed on the financial statements so the public has more understanding about the financial condition.
So in the past, and
So-
we've, well, I'll just say, I'm trying to short circuit here.
Yeah.
That,
We've just implemented them.
So
yes, okay.
Yeah, so we've just implemented them. These are just a couple that.
It's like saying we're gonna act under
Correct.
Robert's Rules of Order. or
Correct,
everything.
yes. And so we implement the ones that we just have to implement. There are a couple like these two that we have an option of setting a threshold. And so like when we reported, GASB statement was one of when we have to report our pension liability, right? That was just implemented. You don't have a choice. So yeah, so we can so the rest of them, they'll only come if we have an opportunity to set a threshold. But I don't anticipate you seeing these again.
all these, yeah.
Yes, I think these.
GASB statements are ultimately amendments of the prior ones.
Yes, yeah.
Bobby, wanna make a motion?
I was behind.
Well-
I was hoping somebody would ask.
If there's no other discussion, let's go ahead and entertain a motion on this item.
I'll move that we authorize the implementation of Governmental Accounting Standards Board Statement number 96, subscription-based information technology arrangements, SBITA reporting materiality threshold.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah,
Thanks, Lisa.
thank you.
Unfortunately, when Lisa speaks, a lot of us just glaze over. We feel bad for her on it sometimes.
I'm just glad we got her,
Yeah.
like understanding.
She understands.
Well, and in some way, bringing these things to our attention, I think is important. These are, things that we can do to, seek to position ourselves for that governmental accounting award. So let's go ahead and move on to item 7, the verbal report and
You
opportunity.
don't have any verbal reports, you have the item from that, but the Budget and Finance Committee, I wanted to try to get a couple of dates on the calendar. So I'm hoping May 18th would work for, sometime on May 18th would work for the two of you.
That's me.
And if it does, what time would work best?
Looks okay to me currently.
Okay, what time would work for you?
Morning, afternoon, doesn't
Morning.
matter. 9:15 on.
Let's do, wanna do 10? Let me just get in there at 10 AM. And then how about June 9th?
Yeah, you have to get loaded up,
Yeah,
like.
it's that time of year, I guess.
Unless I'm in LA for a graduation, that would work, and I can't tell you because I don't know the date yet.
Okay,
So
well, we
we
can
can
move
set
it, but we can set it and then move it, so, how about 2 PM that day, would that work for you?
It's 6-9.
6, 9?
Yes.
Yeah.
2 p.m.
Yep.
We'll move on to the board announcements and requests of staff. Dr. Tran, want to kick us off?
Oh, I just wanted to make a remark that Tinkers and Thinkers again was fun. Like the more spread out layout and that was done, didn't seem as crowded, so you could sort of wander the entire area, which was just nice to have. So I spent most of the time, I think the whole 2 hours there. There wasn't the ice cream making thing, so that took away from it. But other than that, everything else was great and fun. So thank you for doing that. May is around the corner, so just a couple of reminders. That's Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So just wanted to recognize that. In conjunction with that, the Pleasant Hill Night Market will be also returning, and like last year, will also be opening in May, and we'll have the first session in honor of the NHPI Heritage Month. So just wanted the public to know that. And also looking forward to Pups in the Park. So the rebranded event, so that'll be great. I don't have any requests, and that's it for me.
Director Pins?
It's been a busy time since we were last here, you know, with the egg hunt, and which went very well. I did go to there was a presentation at Rogers Ranch about birds in the area, which was really interesting. I think some of you were at the spring bash in the off and on rain, which was refreshing, and they did a great job with that. There were still a lot of people that attended. Tinkers and Thinkers was awesome. I loved that it was spread out, and the kids were engaged, lots of things going on, but they all could do something without having to wait. There was just a lot of activity going on. It was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to the Community Foundation evening. We've got some travel out of state next week, and then a couple of days back, and then some more out of state. So we will miss Pups in the Park and the Age Well Senior Expo, which if you know seniors, or if I encourage people to go to that just to see what is available. It's always a wealth of information. They do a great job. So I highly recommend it if you can't go, but if you know so, and avail themselves of the information that's there, that they absolutely do that. I also sat in on the Zoom meeting with the CARPD Legislative Committee a couple of days ago. And that was really interesting, all of the different bills that are coming up that affect parks and special districts. And our general manager is the chair of that legislative committee. There were a lot of people on that Zoom meeting. I forget how many exactly, but it was an interesting one. That's all I have. I have no other specific requests.
Yeah, I was bummed to miss Tinkers and Thinkers. Regardless of when we move it, I end up with a softball and a soccer game that day, and ironically both in town, but just like took up the whole afternoon. So I heard it was fantastic. I get updates from the mayor on all the things I've missed that he attends that we put on. So he's very very complimentary of the district. And then the only other question I had was the future board meeting dates.
They're wrong. Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm that.
I just went 2 weeks from this, and there's.
And I'm not going to be here on the 7th, but I also wanted to say because we won't be here, but a happy Mother's Day in advance.
Well, I wanted to address something a little more substantive than just what I've attended or not attended, and that is a concern I have that as I sit on this board, I do so because I want to look out for the interests of everybody in this district. And I'm feeling like I'm not being able to, again, participate in a way that I need to in order to really be able to feel like I'm promoting the interests of the district. Case in point, we had a wonderful retreat at the beginning of the year. At a subsequent meeting, I asked for a timeline for a plan to begin to implement all of this. It's now April and I've not seen anything like that. So I don't know, Michelle, if it just takes a request again to you to put together a plan to discuss implementing what we talked about at the retreat, or whether we need to have another summit of some kind or a special board meeting to have a conversation about communication, because I just think that I'm not getting information. I know there's stuff going on in the district, but I feel like I'm out of the loop. I think things are going to land and facilities that are very substantive that I ought to know about, but I don't. And I've got no way to find out about it because I can't violate the Brown Act by getting information about it. So anyway, that's kind of just the big picture of sort of my request to staff right now and to the chair to see if there is some way to maybe address these concerns.
Well, thank you for bringing that up. I mean, it is my charge to try and make sure that, we've got everybody in the board who are informed on, what we're doing, as well as, I don't want to make you feel as though you're not, being able to, represent, the interests of the public in the way you feel is best for our constituents, I guess you could say. Yeah, that is something that I am, also concerned about, like we set out a course of action. I want to make sure that we kind of work towards that this year. There's, as we had said, some of these conversations would have to, kind of put ourselves in a better position, kind of strengthen our core, and that's part of it, so I want to appreciate you for, kind of.
That's all radio silence to me. So I appreciate your comments, but I'm not getting into those vibrations or any of that information. So thank you for listening to it.
No, absolutely. I want to make sure that you know that your contributions are extremely valuable. At least to me anyway. And then I definitely have appreciated hearing, the types of things that you bring up at these meetings, because it makes me think like, wow, I hadn't thought of that myself. So it's very good to have your contributions. So we will look into that. I think, I have regular conversations with Michelle, and, we can talk about how we can make that happen. So as for me, in terms of my reporting out, I had opportunities to attend, some of these events, and I see it as a way in which I get to, kind of look at how the district is operating, if that's just the way in which we're visible to the public. It's not always, that, we get to see some of the other inner workings of it. But I wanted to say that, I tend to have like appreciations at the end of these meetings, and one of the appreciations I had was for Kathleen. We had an opportunity to talk, and I wanted to make it clear, like, she's out there, she's one of the people who are dealing with the public, often like the face of the district. We don't recognize them as kind of maybe being the front lines of the people who interface the most. And we had very candid conversations. She's one person that will speak her mind, and then tell me what she thinks. And I appreciate that kind of just being open and honest. And I also appreciate that the folks that are working at the front desk are dealing with the public. It gives you a greater appreciation of those folks and what they do. It's not all just about, to your point, what we see at the events, but it's some of those other things that, like, where are the challenges that we're experiencing in the frontline people who are out there every day are a lot of the times the people that the public interact with the most. So I want to sort of appreciate her in that position, and all of the folks that are regularly engaging with the public, because they're the ones that help present our image, and they're usually the people who will take things directly, that input from our public to things that can be things that we can help work on it as a board and as a district. So that's where I wanted to sort of appreciate her and some of the things that we look at, you know, it's important to recognize the folks such as her that you know, it's not just a focus on the special events or the things that we do and those activities, but really just the day-to-day operations. So thank you, everybody. I'll close it at 8:24.